San Francisco is running out of time, and the city has already lost its biggest chance to fix it. They needed 82,000 new homes, but their $2 billion plan to build them, a massive project called Parkmerced, is currently a financial disaster. You're about to see how this colossal failure exposes the fatal design flaw in San Francisco's housing system, and why the crisis is getting worse, not better. This isn't just about high rent, it's about the structural failure that forces families out of their homes. We are moving beyond the simple, no space excuse to reveal the deep-rooted planning decisions that cause this problem. We will decode the eviction pipeline and the broken promise of megaprojects, giving you a clear, actionable understanding of the true cause of displacement. You will learn what steps must be taken now, from fixing zoning to rethinking broken deals, to move past the crisis before it's too late. The failure of Parkmerced is a warning sign for every major city. Stick around to the end, where we reveal 3 concrete non-megaproject ways San Francisco can still meet its housing goals. Before we raise the roof on today's housing crisis, make sure to cement your subscription to Design Zip for the latest updates on global architecture and megaprojects. The urgency this time is real. Let's put numbers, stories, and names on what is actually happening on the ground. On a normal day, St. Anthony's in the Tenderloin serves up to 2,400 meals. The dining room does not look like a stereotype of the homeless. It looks like San Francisco. There are people in suits, people with smartphones, families with kids, seniors and workers still in uniform after their shifts. Staff there say many guests have jobs, sometimes full-time jobs, but the numbers do not add up once rent is paid. Rent first, food second, or rent first, medicine second. That is the level we are talking about. Shelters and family services are seeing the same pressure. Hamilton Family Centre, which helps unhoused families, used to have a waiting list of just a few dozen in the 1990s. Now it sits above 250 families. And remember, that is only the households that actually manage to get on the list. Official counts say San Francisco has a few thousand unhoused people. On paper, the number has stayed steady or even dropped slightly over the past decade. But those counts miss a huge part of the crisis. The last time the city did a clear count like this, it found nearly 8,500 unhoused people. That number did not include the people sleeping in their cars, people rotating between relatives' couches, people bouncing through motels, and temporary arrangements for months. It also did not include those who left the city because they simply ran out of options and went to Vallejo, Oakland, Stockton, or anywhere that would rent to them. If you want to see the pipeline into homelessness, you have to look at evictions. The San Francisco Tenants Union has been on the front lines of this battle for decades. During the first tech boom, they saw their drop-in clinic lines double as displacement swept the city. Today, the crisis is surging again. Since the city's pandemic-era eviction protections expired, eviction filings have skyrocketed back toward pre-pandemic highs. While the infamous Ellis Act evictions that clear whole buildings are what usually make the news, right now landlords are actually using the owner move-in rule, much more often to pick off specific low-paying tenants one by one. In just the first few months of 2024, these no-fault evictions nearly doubled compared to the previous year, proving that for many long-term residents, safety is just a piece of paper away from being lost. This is not just normal turnover, this is the system pushing people out. A lot of tenants do not even fight in court. Out of roughly 3,500 unlawful detainer lawsuits each year, about 1/3 of tenants never file a response. If you do not respond, the sheriff can show up and clear you out within weeks. Under all of this is a brutal wealth gap that decides who gets to stay. The top 5% of households make $350,000 or more a year. The bottom 20% make around $20,000. At the same time, rent has been jumping almost vertically. The city does not give every teacher, caregiver and service worker a 150% raise every year. So where do they go? They move farther out, lose their home, or accept a rent burden that eats the rest of their life. If this is the human cost, why is San Francisco still not building enough housing to relieve it? People might tell you that the problem is simple. There is no space, the city is only 7 by 7 miles. This is what most people say, but that is too easy. The deeper truth is that San Francisco chose to make new housing hard for decades. Large parts of the city have strict height limits, low density caps and layers of rules. These things make it very hard to add more homes. On the west side, in areas like Lakeshore and the outer and inner Sunset, these rules kept neighbourhoods almost frozen. According to the city's own planning data, Lakeshore and the outer Sunset added only about 160 homes in 1 year, and that was mostly from a single project. This project took 20 years to push through neighbour resistance and planning fights. In some years, those districts built no new housing at all. This is not because nobody wanted to live there. It is because the zoning map said no. At the same time, the tech economy poured fuel on demand. San Francisco became a global tech hub. High-paid jobs increased. Companies like Salesforce, Twitter, and many startups moved in or expanded. Other tech cities, like Seattle and Austin, also had big tech booms. They saw rent go up, but nothing like in San Francisco. The difference is that those cities built a lot more housing when demand increased. San Francisco did not. Instead of tech growth landing in a flexible market, it landed in a rigid one. That gave landlords and real estate speculators enormous power. When a high-income buyer is willing to pay more, and you cannot add many new units, the only way to capture that money is to raise rents on existing homes or clear out current tenants and sell the building. That is exactly what happened. Developers and speculators followed the incentives. The fastest profit is rarely in deeply affordable housing. It is in luxury units, new condos, and high-end rentals. At the same time, federal and local investment in affordable housing never kept up with the need. When people lost jobs, got sick, or had a crisis, there was not enough support to keep them housed. All of this played out while city leaders spoke about housing goals in the future tense. Even when San Francisco does approve new housing, the process is so slow and risky that many projects never make it to construction. Nowhere is that clearer than in one place on the southwest edge of the city. If you have ever driven toward Highway 280 from 19th Avenue, you have seen Parkmerced. There are clusters of high-rise towers and rows of townhouses wrapped around streets and courtyards, just south of San Francisco State University. Parkmerced was built between 1941 and 1951, during and after World War II. It covers 152 acres and at one point held about 9,000 renters. It was part of a big post-war vision. The city wanted to build stable rentals for middle-class families tied to the boom in war industries and then GI benefits. By the 2000s, Parkmerced was aging. The buildings had serious maintenance problems, but the site also looked like a planner's dream. There was a huge land area, transit nearby, and one owner. If you wanted to add thousands of homes without touching small neighborhood streets, this was the place. In 2011, the city went all in. The Board of Supervisors approved a massive redevelopment plan. The idea was to add around 5,700 new homes and replace roughly 1,500 older units. That meant thousands of net new rentals on a side of town that had blocked growth for decades. Developer Rob Rosania and his company, Maximus Real Estate, promised a long list of sweeteners like 15% affordable units, an extension of a Muni rail line, a new school, an organic farm, new sports fields, open space, and community amenities. It was sold as a city-within-a-city upgrade. But now, 14 years later, if you walk through Parkmerced, you will notice what is missing. There are no bulldozers, no demolition zones, no cranes, and no new mid-rise blocks. The 1940s towers and townhomes are still there, older every year. The project slowly fell apart. Rosania used Parkmerced itself as collateral for large loans. He almost defaulted multiple times. In 2025, creditors finally pushed the whole complex into receivership. This means a court-appointed manager now controls the property, while the legal and financial mess gets sorted. The receiver has promised about $70 million in basic repairs just to stop conditions from getting worse. How did a flagship project end up like this? In the early years, Parkmerced was slowed by a lawsuit from the neighborhood group San Francisco Tomorrow. Construction could not start until that case was resolved. Once the lawsuit was over, Maximus still never filed major building permits. For years, nothing moved. By 2023, Rosania was blaming high construction costs, inflation, supply chain problems, and tariffs. All of those are real issues, but they hit every project in the region, not just this one. The deeper problem was the structure of the deal. There were long timelines and deeply uncertain financing. When conditions changed, the whole plan fell apart. In short, Parkmerced was a giant bet on a perfect economic cycle. San Francisco tied a big slice of its housing future to that bet. But Parkmerced is not the only warning sign. The Candlestick Point plan that promised a mall and a new 49ers stadium collapsed after ownership scandals, and the teams moved to Santa Clara. This scandal left a demolished stadium and years of stalled redevelopment. 30 Van Ness, meant to be a major mixed-use tower, is on hold. A massive Soma skyscraper site is still just a hole in the ground. When big projects fail or pause, they do not just embarrass one developer, they blow holes in the city's housing math. Relying on a few megaprojects is dangerous. When those projects stall, the city misses its housing targets, and residents pay the price in higher rents, longer waits, and worse conditions. So if we cannot trust our biggest solutions to actually materialize, how do we rethink the way we build and plan housing at all? First, San Francisco has to stop putting all its faith in megaprojects. Big projects can help, but they cannot be the backbone of the housing strategy anymore. The city needs thousands of small and medium projects like 2 to 6 story buildings, corner lots, backyard units, and quiet infill on blocks that have stayed frozen for decades. Second, the city has to make building normal housing less painful. That means faster approvals for projects that are clearly legal, and true by-right rules for 100% affordable housing. If a building is within the zoning and meets code, it should not take years of hearings. A real shot clock with penalties for sitting on approvals would send a clear message: just lose the rights, or lose them. Third, for mega projects that are stuck, San Francisco needs to renegotiate or rethink. If the 2011 deal for Parkmerced no longer works in a 2025 cost environment, rewrite it. Bring in new partners. In some cases, that might mean mixing public tools like land trusts, public banks, and non-profit developers, so the whole site is not left to one overextended company. At the same time, any new building push has to protect renters and match the real income levels in this city. That means stronger eviction protections and serious anti-speculation measures. There should also be a much higher share of units for extremely low and moderate income residents, not just luxury view apartments. And while all that moves, the city has to scale up prevention and rapid rehousing, so families do not fall off the edge while everyone argues about zoning. Because if San Francisco says it is serious about this crisis, now is the moment to prove it with concrete steps. So we've seen how San Francisco's reliance on giant singular bets like the failed Parkmerced project, coupled with rigid exclusionary zoning, has manufactured a housing crisis that pushes even full-time workers out of their homes. My personal opinion is that this is more than a policy failure, it's a moral tragedy. When a city actively incentivizes the displacement of its working class for the sake of speculation and luxury, it loses its soul. It makes you wonder, is the resistance to building truly about preserving a neighborhood's character, or is it about preserving the wealth of those who already own a piece of it? Let us know what you think. What is the single most important action your city must take right now to prevent this outcome? Leave a comment below and share your perspective. And if the engineering, finance, and human impact of these global construction sagas fascinate you, you've come to the right place. Subscribe to Design Zip for deep dives into the architecture, planning, and mega projects that are building the world we live in. We'll see you in the next one.